Hey guys, it's Connor.
And I'm Ryan.
I just want to let you guys know about an awesome podcasting tool called Anchor. We've recently switched to it for Theology Thursday, and it distributes all your podcasts for you. It's a great hosting service. It's absolutely free, and it even lets you start sponsorship, making money with ads with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need for a great podcast in one place.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to Theology Thursday, an ecumenical space for students to discuss matters of faith and theology.
I'm your host, Connor Grubbs.
And I'm your co-host, Ryan Mock.
And I'm your co-host, Johnny Grubbs.
Hi, Johnny. So glad to hear your voice, your beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Oh no, Johnny.
Johnny's not actually with us anymore. We didn't kill him. That sounded like we killed him. But no, he's getting ready for a trip to Brazil, and he's going to be in Brazil for multiple weeks. His wife, my sister-in-law, is from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and they are taking their now 1 year and 3-month-old baby, my niece Zoe, to Brazil for the first time to meet a bunch of her family in Brazil. I think she's met at least one or two family members I know she's met that have come here to visit. This is her first time going out of the country.
Well, I'm sure this is going to be a great experience for her. She's going to have all these great memories, and she's going to remember this for years to come.
This is definitely more for Sue's family than it is for Zoe. Although I'm sure in the future that will be kind of cool, getting to go out of the country to visit family.
Yes, indeed.
And be raised with both those cultures. I know one of the things they're doing is Sue talks to Zoe in Portuguese while Johnny talks to her in English. And apparently, fascinating fact about childhood development, with the parents speaking in two different languages to the child, they just grow up bilingual.
That's pretty dope.
They learn both languages at once, and eventually, as the brain develops, are able to distinguish the two. So, pretty cool. Pretty awesome. Fun story, she walked on Thanksgiving for the first time on Thanksgiving, right there when everybody was there.
She timed it out perfectly.
Yeah,
then.
She did. It was awesome. So, quite enjoyed that experience. And we're going to miss Johnny, but he's not gone forever, just for a little while.
He's gone but not forgotten.
I think till the end of January, and hopefully he'll rejoin us. I'm pretty sure he will.
Yeah.
He's a little overwhelmed right now.
Yeah, he'll get over it though.
He seemed like a sad man today, but I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, well, those text messages you sent him weren't very nice, so
Well,
I understand his sadness.
They were. He was being sad before I told him.
Yeah, and you just
how
made
I
it worse
really felt.
by bullying him.
No, the only thing I said was, don't take so long typing text to me. Oh. And then I said, you imploding little fart blossom.
Yeah, that's not very nice.
That was the main part. He was telling me all the reasons he couldn't do it, and it was very, very long. And I'm like, well, if you don't have time, then how are you sending me all these texts?
Oh.
Which was a good point.
Yeah.
But, maybe I should have been a little kinder. He's my brother, it's what
Maybe
we do.
he'll forgive you.
Maybe not. We're here now, Ryan.
Right. Yeah.
We're here now.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
So, this is the last Theology Thursday, not only of 2019, not only of the year, but, Ryan, of the decade. That's kind of hard to believe. I mean, we kind of came in towards the end of the decade.
Yeah, this is actually, I guess in February it'll be 2 years.
2 or 3? I think it'll be 3 years.
It might actually, I don't know, I think it's 2 years. Or maybe not.
No? Maybe it is 2 years.
That would be crazy though. Actually, you know what? I think you're right. I think it might actually be 3 because I'm pretty sure we started Theology Thursday when I was still in early college.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the timeline here because I know it was right after a significant event in my life that we started the podcast.
Well,
so the beginning of this year. Yeah, and then so yeah, no, it'll be 2 years.
2 years.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, well,
Still feels like an eternity.
you know, it's kind of weird that Theology Thursday is one of the most consistent things in my life.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, everything in my life has changed since.
Yeah, I've
we
thought
started
about
this
that
show.
myself. Like, I have gone through so many different transition periods in the past 2 years of going in and out of jobs, stopping, and then starting school again. But Theology Thursday has just been there for me.
Yeah, and I mean, really, we hope that's the way it's been for a lot of people. Is
Yeah.
that
Theology Thursday is the only thing that keeps me going.
well, that's a little much, but no, just the consistency of it. That in the midst of a crazy life, you have this to listen to. Hopefully, get something out of it. I mean, we want to be a catalyst for conversation. That's why we exist. It says an ecumenical space for students to discuss matters of faith and theology, and ecumenical, it doesn't matter what denomination you're from, it doesn't even matter if you're a Christian, we want you to join in on the discussion.
That's right.
And then, if the reason we emphasize students is because Ryan and I are students of the gospel, students of the Bible, and we always will be.
Yes.
There will always be more to learn, so we're not here claiming to be the experts, we're just saying these are things we enjoy discussing, and we hope to share this conversation. I know there's a lot of people who have tried to go to other sources for this kind of thing, maybe listen to some other podcasts, and it's just the language that's used, the way that the information is shared, it just goes right over their head. And so, I mean, my hope is that this is something that's a little more accessible for people who are maybe new to the faith or new to these topics.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I'm not sure if we are going over people's heads or not. If we are, let us know.
Yeah.
But that's what we hope for, is that we're able to communicate in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah. So it's been a fun ride, and I know we've heard some pretty incredible stories from people about certain episodes that actually really meant a lot to people or helped people work through some difficult times. And I think hearing those testimonies is really part of the thing that keeps me doing it. It's just recognizing. I mean, the other day I had this moment where there was a student who may be listening right now, I hope so, that had a lot of questions, and they'd come to one of the Bible studies in one of those schools that we do, and typically I don't plug things that I make like this. It's just not. But there were so many questions, and there were good questions, and there were questions that I realized we've actually addressed pretty in depth on here that we didn't have time to in a 30-minute lunch period. And there were so many of them. I said, look, I don't normally make a plug for this, but I do have a podcast. If you want to go on Spotify, if you want to go on Apple Podcasts, look this up and look at some of these questions. They're in the titles, and listen to it. And it hit me, there's been times that just because of our busy schedules and everything, I've just wanted to quit the podcast. But it hit me. This is our 64th episode.
Really? Wow.
That is a lot of questions, and the more and more we build it, I mean, this is amazing, an amazing resource for students, because I really hope that for middle school and high school students it's something that's accessible. And we all work with youth, me, Ryan, and Johnny. So the idea that we are building a library of material it's not comprehensive by any means, but it's a good starting point for students. That's an invaluable resource. That's incredible. I mean, not because we're incredible, but I realized the value in it. Something that I hadn't noticed before. Is wait a minute, we've answered 63 different questions about theology, and people can go look that up if they want to.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like we're just talking about one thing per episode. There's a lot that we've kind of covered and discussed, and look, we love it, and we're going to continue. So it's kind of, looking back, I mean, we really just started doing this for fun, and in some ways that may still be while we're doing it, but it's certainly not the only reason. It's turned into something much bigger than I would have expected.
It's also interesting to think about, this has been over the course of 2 years, I don't know, going back and listening to what I said 2 years ago might not be the same as what I would say today.
Right.
Like Connor said, we're both students, and so our minds should be continually be, I don't know, reformed to God's word. And so, I don't know, maybe there's things that I've said where I'm like, oh, well, maybe I don't necessarily agree with that today. Or maybe it's more nuanced than that.
Right.
I'm sounding like Johnny now,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to think about.
No, and I think it's continually challenged me. Like, we record this on a weekly basis when we're in season, and just the challenge to be studying specific topics. I mean, I'll read the Bible. I try to every day, but usually that'll be going through a book, chapter by chapter, something like that. This encourages me to study specific theological concepts because I know I'm going to have to sit in front of a mic and talk about it pretty soon. So I think in that sense it's been a good habit, a good consistent thing to have. So we hope and pray that it's been a blessing to you as well. And we really hope that maybe in this next decade it's gonna grow a little bit.
Yeah.
But looking back, not just on the existence of this podcast, but on the entire decade, think about it. When this decade started, I was the ripe age of 11 years old.
And I was 10.
So, man, a whole decade. That's, whew. I mean, like you were saying, so much has changed just in the time that this podcast has started, just in 2 years. I mean, I could say probably more has changed in my life in the last 3 years than any other period of my life. I was talking to Billy about this the other day, your brother, who I also have a sports podcast with, Elevated Sports. You should check it out. It just launched yesterday. So if you guys want to listen, it's Wednesdays and Saturdays if you like sports. Anyway, the thing is, we were talking about how, I've talked to you about this before too. The person I was even just 3 years ago, even just 2 years ago, I want to go back and just punch in the face. It's been a lot.
I want to punch that Connor in the face as well.
Even just 2 years ago?
Nah, I'm just kidding.
But no, 5 years ago, I would give that to you.
I was just about to say that. 5 years ago, maybe I'd consider it.
I think 2 years ago, I was more detrimental to myself than anyone else. But 5 years ago, I was a pain in everybody's
middle school,
butt.
early high school.
Oh no, I definitely want to do more than punch that kid. Anyway, the fact is, it's just even in these short periods of time, it's seen so much growth and so much change, and I'm sure I'll continue to even just in the next 1 year. But I certainly hope I do. I'm getting married. But in this decade, what has changed for us, as a culture? I mean, and you think about it, it was right before the new decade started that I think it was 2008 that Facebook launched, and a lot of social media started to come out after that. It was around that same time that YouTube started to find this new groove and grow as a platform, to the point that for Gen Z and a lot of the upcoming generation, it's replaced television. It's crazy to look at where we are just from a technology and a social media standpoint compared to the beginning of the decade.
Yeah.
To the point that I really feel it's affected how we as people function and relate to each other.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people are talking about this right now. At the end of the decade, I've several podcasts I've listened to and books that I'm reading right now talk about this issue. But I think in retrospect, people are starting to recognize that it's almost an epidemic because it's affecting us in a lot of negative ways.
Absolutely.
But you think about where we are right now and compare it to where we were in 2010. You think there's a big difference?
I do think so.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I think 3 or 4 decades from now would be in history books. I mean, it's that big of a change.
Yeah.
It's that big of a cultural shift.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a whole culture shifting too, right?
Yeah.
You think about, the good and the bad, right? Just look at our presidents, jump from Barack Obama to our first black president to Donald Trump, who's Republican. That's a big shift. You also see the big, liberalizing of society. I think it was 2015 where gay marriage was legalized.
Right.
And that was...
It's hard to believe it's only been 5 years.
It's only been...
almost 5.
It's just basically almost been 5 years. but it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for you and me growing up in it, like, we didn't really think about that when we were 10 years old, right? We didn't even know that was a big issue or conversation. So we've pretty much grown up in it.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, because, our entire adult lives, it's been commonplace.
Right.
In our culture.
Yeah.
But when we were children growing up, it wasn't.
No. Yeah. It was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is really bizarre when you think about how much change we have seen and experienced just in our lifetime so far. But what are some of the negative ways you think, like, social media, specifically in technology, has affected and is affecting this next generation? But even us, nobody's exempt from it. I mean, it's affecting adults. It's affecting even some elderly seniors. Like, I mean, I know people well into their 60s and 70s who spend a lot of time on Facebook.
Right. You know, the whole criticism about millennials and Gen Zs, like, being obsessed with social media. Millennials and Gen Zs are not the only ones who are guilty of this. Like,
No.
Absolutely. You know, like, that has really affected all generations. The amount of, like, people who are older who are obsessed with Facebook, and even, you know, obsessed with misinformation on social media.
Yeah.
People who will tell us not to believe everything we read on the internet, yet they believe everything they read on the internet. You know, right. Which is frustrating. But yeah, I think it's affected all generations. Our attention spans. I think there's physical and there's mental effects on this in our individuals and in society. Right, our attention spans are shorter. We are desensitized to things. I think even a decade ago, things we would hear about we'd be shocked at. Yet things we hear about today, you know, we're just kind of like, oh, another one. You know, you think about, like, school shootings, right? You know, like 10 years ago, school shooting was like a humongous thing. And then you hear about a school shooting today and you're like, oh, another one. You know, it's kind of crazy how that we've come desensitized to stuff like that. We feed off of misinformation and online bullying and harassment. We live through that, and it's really not a good thing at all. There have definitely been so many good things that have come out of technology, but also bad things.
Yeah. Well, one of the good things I was thinking about is, I mean, it will, and just I don't even know if it is good or bad. I think it can be good. Is some of the automated ways that people can work on an app-based, platform as basically a contracted worker. I mean, you think about things like Uber and DoorDash, and I mean, they have all these things for driving, for grocery delivery, for I walk dogs on an app, where people are able to start kind of making extra money on their own, and not just extra, but there's some people who are full-time Uber drivers. Like, they found a way to make this their lifestyle, and it's interesting how not only has social media affected our personal lives, but it's affected the market in a huge way, and in turn affected our personal lives.
Right.
Because everything's trying to be sold to us through our devices, rather, because people aren't going out to the stores to look for things as much anymore. It's just, it's wild to look at. But I think one of the most frightening things has been one of the creators of Facebook coming out and saying, you know, there's certain, like, kind of reward centers of your brain that release dopamine when, like, certain little things, little bite-sized pieces of information are grabbed, or when you're able to click on something and feel like you accomplished something. Basically saying that the creators of Facebook, him being one of them, designed it in a way to get people addicted, and they knew that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And he came out and just said, I just guess I never realized how big of an impact this would have, but, like, I gotta come clean. We knew what we were doing. And you see stuff like that, and it's like, geez. And, I mean, like, on the iPhone, it has this thing that will tell you how much time you've been spending on your phone during the week.
Yeah.
And, like, you look at that thing, and you'll feel very convicted about your life. You know?
Yeah. No, I think there's something similar to that on my Android phone. And I just don't look at it because I know I feel bad about myself because
Ryan,
I know
I'll read mine on the podcast if you read yours on the podcast.
Let me find it.
You want to see it first?
You have to share yours first, and then I'll share mine. Let's see if I can find it.
Okay. I want to see, it breaks it down by app, so I want to see exactly what it's including.
This might take a minute for me.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll go ahead and read mine. Mine's saying an average of 5 hours a day, but that's including podcast and Spotify, which play in the background while I'm driving.
Okay.
So probably more like 2 hours a day. And I'll say during like Christmas break and Thanksgiving break, times like that, I'm on it a lot more. I watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of dumb YouTube. So, but the point is this, these things can really like get us hooked and distract us. And I think for especially for Gen Z and for Gen Y, I guess, is the generation after them. I don't know, I have a hard time keeping up with it. I thought I was a millennial for the longest time, but apparently I'm not.
Well, it depends on how you define it. Some would say we're millennials, some would say we're Gen Z.
I like to say I'm a millennial. I don't want to be thrown in with the Gen Zs. But they're like losing their ability to socialize.
Yeah.
And to empathize and to express and articulate their emotions. It's really sad. But there's two books that I would recommend. One is called The Digital Minimum or Digital Minimalism. And it kind of, this guy basically cut almost all technology out of his life, and I don't think that's necessarily possible for everyone. I know I need it for work and stuff like that, but figuring out what can I cut out?
Yeah.
Can I narrow it down to just what's necessary? And then another one called The Common Rule, which also just talks about general principles we can apply to our lives to help when it comes to social media. This makes me think of a verse from Ephesians, which basically just says, make the most of the time because the days are evil.
Yeah.
Using every opportunity. In other words, God cares about how we spend, where we spend our time. Time has been given to us by God. It is a limit that only we as humans are constrained by, but we are expected to steward it well.
Yeah.
And even to some translations would say, redeem it. If you've heard me talk on the podcast before, you know I'm big on redemption, kingdom theology. And that means using our time to usher in the kingdom of heaven and establish things that are eternal and will have an impact on the new earth rather than things that are temporary and will fade with this one.
Yes.
Boom.
So I don't know if I could find this.
That's okay. I'll forgive you. Hey, let's move on to our main topic.
Yes, I got out of it.
This was for a while. Oh, I see what you did. But I feel like this topic is actually going to be fairly short, so that's okay. But it's our Christmas episode.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We haven't really been talking about
Happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Hanukkah.
Hope you had a good harvest.
Yeah. So, Christmas is kind of interesting because...
It's about Jesus.
Well, yeah, but Christians didn't really start it.
No. I don't know. You tell me. Did Christians make Christmas?
Well,
did we steal it from the pagans?
So, that's complicated. I don't know that we actually have time to get into that on this episode. You know what? That'll be next year.
Man, it's got to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that because we're talking about the virgin birth today. But it's an interesting time. I think it can be good. But yeah, when you look at the origins and of Christmas itself and a lot of the traditions surrounding Christmas, like gifts and decorations and lights and trees and all these things, it's not entirely Christian. I mean, we kind of have these...
What's not Christian about putting candles on trees?
We have these two Christmases that go on every year, and one is all these traditions that have come from the holiday that everyone almost celebrates. I know not everyone recognizes Christmas, but a lot of people put up a tree and give gifts and do all that stuff, whether they believe in Jesus or not. So there's that Christmas.
Yeah.
And then there's what Christians recognize, Jesus' birth.
Right.
Even though
Jesus'
it was not
birthday.
Actually on December 25th.
On December 25th, Jesus was born.
No. In fact, it was more likely in the summer. Though, if you're wondering where December 25th comes from, it is very likely that December 25th was around the time that the three wise men actually arrived.
The three
to
wise
see
men?
Jesus.
There's three wise men?
Is this a trick question?
I don't know. How many wise men does
Oh,
the
yeah,
Bible
we
say?
actually don't know how many wise men there were.
Aha, there you go.
Oh, you're right. Right? See how like we get steeped in all these traditions and things that we hear that are so inaccurate. So the wise men, however many there were, and the reason we assume now I'm remembering is because there were three gifts.
Right.
But the wise men, the magi, when they arrived, it wasn't at the manger scene.
Right.
They were in Egypt by then.
Yeah, Jesus could have been anywhere between 2 and 5 years old.
Yeah, and they had fled like God told them to do. So, so a lot of things that we kind of get wrong around this time. But I know one of the really confusing ones for people is the virgin birth. So the idea that Jesus, God in human flesh, was born of a virgin. And I think the main question, one argument I can shut down, right off the bat is like, okay, so, well, it's not physically possible. Well, here's the thing. If we're talking about a God who can create the universe, we're talking about a God who could make somebody conceive a child
Right.
without the normal means of conception.
Right. The virgin birth is completely possible if you presuppose the God of miracles.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, spoke the earth into existence. Virgin birth. Honestly, I'm not sure how that's so hard for you to wrap your mind around if you're accepting.
Right. Actually, I like that you bring that up because I hear that all the time from people who are not Christians. How could you believe in a religion that teaches that Jesus was born of a virgin? Doesn't that sound ridiculous? But it's not ridiculous.
Far more ridiculous things.
Right. It's not ridiculous if you presuppose that God exists and he's able to perform miracles.
It's probably one of the least outlandish things that we hear of him doing in the Bible.
Right.
Or even today in some people's lives. I mean, It's not, that seems like a fairly simple miracle with the God we're talking about.
Right.
So I don't even really want to get too much into that part. I think the better question that is maybe something that a lot of Christians wrestle through, and I think even I have wrestled through before, is why? Why does it matter? And it's something that a lot of legends and religions have like picked up for their hero. I mean, Anakin Skywalker was born of a virgin, in the Star Wars mythos.
Wait, what?
You didn't know that?
Anakin Skywalker was born of a virgin?
Well, maybe I should have talked about that in my Phantom Menace review recently.
Whoa. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even believe you saying that.
And I don't believe I'm saying it either, but when I watched the Phantom Menace recently, I was like, I never noticed that because I was a kid, but Qui-Gon is talking to Anakin's mother, and he's asking, well, where's the boy's father? And she says he doesn't have a father, and kind of goes in further
he
explaining.
went to go get milk?
No, not like the father left or the father died, like she doesn't know how she got pregnant.
She just woke up one day and
there's
she
no
was pregnant.
father. Yeah. So, yeah. So, but this is Qui-Gon's first telltale sign that Anakin is the chosen one.
Like Jesus.
Now, well, okay, but here's the thing. George Lucas picked that up not just from Christianity, but my point is, I mentioned Star Wars, but many stories and legends and myths kind of take the hero, and this is like the thing that sets them apart. And it's such an odd thing that I'm not sure why so many people picked this up.
I do want to clarify a point, though. Many people criticize Christianity as piggybacking off of earlier, more ancient religions. There was a documentary in the early 2000s about this very topic, among other things, that Christianity was copied from other religions. And one of the things they look at is other earlier religions have virgin births, like the main god was born of a virgin. The thing to understand with that, though, is most of those things are false. So they claim that Christianity was copied from other religions. There's usually, if you look into those arguments, there's really no ground to stand on for those arguments, Many of those arguments come from misconceptions about what those earlier religions taught and twisting of what earlier religions taught. So that's something that we could talk about in a different episode, but I just want to point out.
Yeah, and some of those early religions and stories were inspired by Jewish prophecy about Jesus, because people were told that the Messiah would be a virgin birth hundreds of years before he actually existed.
Yeah, so, many religions copied Christianity, not the other way around.
Right. So even if they were copying it before it was called Christianity, or before Jesus came to the earth, they were copying, Judaism, whatever. So there's that. But the main thing I wanted to get into today is why? Why does it matter?
Right. It's weird because the main doctrinal standard for Christianity to decipher whether somebody is orthodox or not, whether somebody's a heretic, is the Apostles' Creed, right? That's one of the most early Christian statements of faith that clarifies what Christians believe. It was created in the first few centuries of Christianity, and one of its main points is that Jesus was born of a virgin. And if you don't believe that Jesus was born of a virgin, then you are outside what we call Orthodox Christianity, or true and right Christianity. So for some reason, to the early church fathers, this doctrine that Jesus was born of a virgin was very important. But it seems so bizarre to us. Like, why is this so important that Jesus had to be born of a virgin? Why does this matter? Why?
Right. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because at the beginning of this season we talked about how there's the essentials and the non-essentials of the faith. There are certain things that are set in stone, clearly laid out by Scripture, that Orthodox Christians across Presbyterianism, Methodism, Catholicism, Baptist, like all these different denominations and expressions of the Christian faith, will have these kind of main tenets that they agree on that make them Christians, But it's the non-essentials, things like, say, baptism or different, or communion, that people don't necessarily agree on, or have different takes on, have interpreted from Scripture differently. And you know what? It's kind of a gray area. It may be right, may be wrong. At the end of the day, as long as they agree on these essentials over here, it's okay. And you're right. The virgin birth is considered one of the essentials of Orthodox Christianity.
Yeah, like you have to believe in the virgin birth, otherwise you're not really a true Christian.
Right.
So
kind of bizarre. So Isaiah 7:14 said, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and he will call his name Emmanuel," God with us. Hundreds and hundreds of years before, Matthew 1:18-25. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was as follow: when his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child. So when she was still a virgin, by the Holy Spirit. The Bible says it was conceived by the Holy Spirit. Some people have taken that and interpreted it very strange and inappropriate ways.
Yes, for sure.
God does not have sex with anyone. Jesus didn't even have sex with anyone when he was in human form.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's actually would kind of defeat the purpose of the virgin birth.
Yeah.
If he was conceived through sexual intercourse. So, no, it was a miraculous conception.
Right.
Within the womb.
So the Bible makes that clear, right? So the Bible, when we read Scripture, we read what Scripture tells us from the verses that Connor just shared with us. Jesus was born of a virgin. And there has been arguments and debates across the years about, what the Bible actually said when it said that, and, the languages and yada, yada, yada. We don't have enough time to discuss, but the bottom line you could take from that is that the Bible says that Jesus was born of a virgin. So that's out of the way. The question is, why?
Yeah. So, why?
That's a great question, Connor. I think there are several reasons why it was important for Jesus to be born of a virgin. The first point I would highlight is that Jesus is born of a virgin because it clearly shows God's divinity, or Jesus's humanity and Jesus's divinity.
Right, because we know he was both fully God and fully man.
Right. If Jesus was born not by the Holy Spirit, if Jesus was born through natural means, then the concept of Jesus' divinity is now open for criticism, right? It would be much harder to believe that Jesus is divine if he was born through natural means. What the virgin birth does for Jesus is it emphasizes his divinity.
Yeah. And we know that the human bloodline was cursed with sin. And we know that Jesus was sinless.
Right. Yeah. And so, but see, this emphasizes his divinity, but it also emphasizes his humanity, right? Because he was actually born from a woman.
Right. So while we have God, him being conceived by miraculously through the Holy Spirit, so Son of God, perfect, holy. So Joseph is the stepfather. He still was Jesus' earthly father, fathered him, as his own child. But wouldn't he still carry the bloodline of Mary?
Okay, so that's a great question. Because one of the reasons why we believe Jesus had to be born of a virgin. Okay, so we said, number one, it emphasizes the fact that he's both divine and human. He's 100% divine, he's 100% human. Fully man, fully God. And we could see this in the virgin birth because he was conceived by the Holy Spirit, yet he was born of a woman. One of the other reasons why we would say the virgin birth is necessary is because I guess you could say, I don't know, I should probably wordsmith this better, but it cuts Jesus off from the bloodline of Adam, thus removing Jesus's, I don't know how you should word, thus removing Jesus's, I'm a loss for words here. Jesus is not guilty under the first Adam, because he's not born through Adam, right? So I guess the Bible makes it clear, especially if you read Romans chapter 5, that Adam is what's called our federal head. Okay, that's a big theological fancy word. You don't need to memorize that word. That will not be on a test. Federal head. What that means is that Adam, the first man, Adam, he is our representative. And when Adam sinned by taking from the fruit and eating of the fruits of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Adam, as our representative, acting on behalf of all of us, all of humanity, he sinned, but not only did he sin and he fell, we all fell with him. And through his line, we have sin, right? We're born with sin. And that's because Adam is our federal head. He's our representative. If Jesus was born through natural means, through Joseph and Mary together, how birth usually works in the natural sense, Jesus would be under the federal headship of Adam, right? Because Jesus would be, of man. He'd be fully man. But what the virgin birth does is that cuts Jesus off from that. Jesus was never, because of the virgin birth, Jesus was never under the federal headship of Adam. So Jesus didn't have original sin. When you read Romans 5, Jesus is now the second Adam. Jesus is now acts as our representative, as the Christian's representative. Jesus acts on behalf of us, and that's because he was able to do that because of the virgin birth, right? You split off, and that's a very deep theologically worded paragraph I just said.
So, in a spiritual sense, he's starting a new bloodline.
In a spiritual sense, yes, he's starting a new bloodline. I don't want to make the case. I know this is weird, but I don't want to make the case, as some people think and this is not necessarily wrong, but there could be problems with believing this, that sin actually flows genetically through Adam's seed. I don't know if that's correct or not, and I haven't done enough research on that or not. I don't really think I could see that in Scripture, but what I do know is clear is that born through natural means, we are under the federal headship of Adam.
Right.
And Jesus was not born through natural means. He's not under the federal headship of Adam.
But because he was born of a human,
he could be our second Adam.
Yeah, and he does carry the bloodline of David, which was prophesied many years before. So I don't know that any of this completely answers the question. Like, it's still a really confusing thing. And one of the things that, like, I always say when I start to get a lot of really hard questions, is like, if I could answer every question about God, and this isn't a cop-out, like, this is just the truth, but if I could answer every question about God he wouldn't be God.
Right.
And I think, exploring these things, or he at least he wouldn't be a God worth worshiping. And God's ways are higher than our ways. He exists outside of the realm of time and space, and he is, by nature, he is limitless. And we have lots of limits.
We do.
So
yes.
How are we to understand everything about him? However, I do hope that idea of, him being the second Adam and it is important. It is one of the essentials of the faith.
Yeah.
Even if it's kind of hard to wrap our minds around, it is a little bit confusing, but I'll tell you what, there's far more confusing things in the Bible and in theology to wrestle with.
Yeah. And I would summarize with this, right? Just to say what we all said, over the course of 20 minutes. The virgin birth is necessary because it shows that it shows that Jesus is fully God and fully man. It also makes Jesus the second Adam, right? He's not Adam is not Jesus' representative because of this. Because of the virgin birth, Adam cannot be Jesus' representative. And then also, finally, I would say this shows that salvation comes from God alone, right? Salvation was not something that man could produce alone. Salvation cannot be produced through natural means from us, from man and woman together.
Yeah.
It came from God. This is through God's work, and that salvation has come from us. And I think that's an important message that we could take from the virgin birth, that God gave us, his son. Yeah.
Well, and a final side note, we love our Catholic friends, but I do just want to point out there's this idea in Roman Catholicism of the Immaculate Conception, which, if you think about those two words together, immaculate just means perfect, and the conception of Jesus himself was perfect, but when Catholics talk about the Immaculate Conception, they're actually talking about Mary's conception and believe that she was also born of a virgin. There's nowhere in Scripture that even implies this.
Right.
And
the one verse that Catholics use to justify this, at least from what I know of, from reading Catholic stuff, from listening to Catholics speak, though that's not a lot of time on my hands doing that, they would point to a verse in Luke in which the angel Gabriel, right? That was Gabriel, was the angel, said that Mary was the favored one, full of grace, and so they take that to say that Mary was perfect, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think she's the only one in Scripture to be called favored.
Yeah, right. So I definitely that's a stretch. If you are Catholic and you are well versed in Catholic dogma, please correct us if we're wrong. But
I would love to learn more about it, but and I understand why, if she was born of a virgin, that would lead to the next assumption, which is that she was also sinless, because that's really why that's important to Catholics, is that they also believe that Mary was perfect. And that's why they pray to her and all these different things. The main reason I wanted to bring that up is because I find it quite humorous that even if you were Catholic and you do believe this, I find it very awkward that there are several churches that go by the name Immaculate Conception. In fact, there's even a daycare and a kindergarten called Immaculate Conception Daycare and Kindergarten.
Yeah, that's
look,
wrong. That's
bad. We might have listeners that are involved with one of these places, because one of them's actually local, but I don't understand why, as a church, or especially as a kindergarten, you would want the word conception in the name.
What should we name our pre-K?
I just wouldn't want the word conception anywhere near there. And I can tell you this, and so can any of the workers at that daycare and pre-K. None of those children are immaculately conceived. So, all right, here we go. That was longer than it's been. We've been trying to keep them 30 minutes. But, we wanted to give this recap on the decade and some of the things that have happened, significant culture shifts, and also talk about the virgin birth. I almost thought about making it 2 separate episodes, but here we are. Here you go. This is a Christmas gift to you. It's a bonus episode, so it doesn't count.
Right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We hope that you have a blessed Christmas. If you have any topics that you want to hear us talk about in the new year, particularly in season 4, once we finish up our systematic theology, You can email us at theologythursdaypodcast@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for some bonus content now and then. You can also subscribe to Elevated Entertainment for movie reviews. Sometimes they're just fun. Sometimes we dig a little deeper and talk about some of the spiritual allegories that can be found in modern films and television. And then you can also go subscribe to Elevated Sports, which is a sports talk show for fans, by fans. There's a podcast that goes with that that's also available on Spotify every Wednesday and Saturday. It's a lot of content, all brought to you by Elevated Entertainment, all under the same umbrella. But really the best content we have is Theology Thursday. So just keep listening to this.
That's right.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next decade.
See you next decade. Great dad joke.